Hey everybody, it's Author MD New. Welcome back. I am here to talk about writing tips and tricks that I've discovered through my journey as an author. Today I wanted to share my experience as a small publishing house author. Now this is going to be different for everybody. This is just my experience. But I wanted to give you an idea of what to expect, what it's like, and really kind of the things to not be so much leery of, but make you take pause and to think, hey, is this what I want to do? Is this where I want to go? So the vast majority of authors will be published through small publishing houses or self-published indie authors. Very few authors get picked up by the big five publishing companies. Now, there's nothing wrong with being an indie author, and there's nothing wrong with being in a small publishing house, and there's nothing wrong with being picked up in one of the big five publishers. That's great. Um, but keep in mind that when you're first starting up, chances are you're going to be in a small publishing house. Like I said, that's not a bad thing. It's just what it is. And honestly, it's very exciting to be with a small publishing house because you get to learn a lot. In fact, I will be sharing a link to my blog post about this very topic, about what it's like to be in a small publishing house, so you kind of get an idea of a more in-depth conversation about life as a small publisher or as a small publishing house. So when I first started my writing career back in 2017, I signed my very first contract with my first publishing house, and I was excited. I had all these visions of grandeur and what it was going to be like and how exciting it was, and this was my big break. After all these rejection letters I finally got accepted by a publisher, and yes, some of those things came to pass, but the reality is that only started, my learning process of what to expect. A lot of times authors and writers will think that once they sign that contract, they just get to sit back and write and do nothing else. Well, that may be the case for some authors, but the vast majority of us, that's not the case. We have to put in the time, and you have to be willing to work, because the reality is small publishing houses don't have the money. Even the large publishing houses, unless you're somebody like Stephen King or Kim Stanley Robinson or somebody like that, who you have the name recognition, they don't spend a lot of money on authors. So, they will for their big hitters, but for the smaller ones, not so much. But they do have services that a lot of these smaller publishing houses like mine typically don't. So for me, what I discovered is, not only do I have to write the books, but I had to find ways of, find ways to market my books, promote my books, advertise my books, find opportunities for me to showcase my work. And I spend a lot of, and you have to spend a lot of time and money. You know, none of this stuff is free. So yeah, it can be daunting, but it is part of the author life. It is part of life as somebody who is in a small publishing house. You don't get to necessarily sit there and they're not going to do all the work for you. You know, if you want to get on a TV show or on a radio show or on YouTube or on a podcast or something like that, you have to approach these people. You have to create media kits. You have to talk to your local media and reporters to see if you can get on, even on their radar. You want to get in front of a booktuber, you have to contact them and hopefully they'll select you. You want to get on a podcast, you have to make all that effort. And it takes time, and it takes a lot of time. So, time that you could spend writing, you now have to spend marketing yourself and your books. Again, that's not a bad thing, it's just the reality. An example that I like to share is I wanted to go to Saint and Sinners. And if you don't know what Saint and Sinners is, it's a huge queer literary festival in New Orleans. And it is huge. I mean, it's a Big thing. So I started looking around. Started looking in to see what it would cost, how much to go there, et cetera, et cetera. Well, for the 3 day event for myself and my husband to go, and I wouldn't go without my husband because he would help me at the booth and he works just as hard as I do. It was going to cost us between $3,000 to $5,000 one event for us to go for 3 days. That included our airfare, the hotel, and everything like that. And those numbers are going to fluctuate with everything, right? But that's what it was going to cost us. And there was no way that we could afford that. Not at, not at the time. It was not practical. And being part of a small publishing house, my publishers, my publishing house didn't have the funds for that. They have no money to invest in authors in that regard. They do other things, but not in this regard. So it was like, well, it's out of the price range for this year, maybe next year, but at least I know that I can eventually do it, and if it's something that I want to do. And I've talked to other authors who do go every year, and it's a great event, but they don't look at it as a way of selling books. They look at it as a way of networking and getting to know other people. So there is value in that, as I've said in other posts. It's like you can't always look at, I'm going to sell 1,000 books to cover the cost of this particular event. It's not always about that. So that's just kind of something to keep in mind. You really have to think about those types of things because these opportunities are not always going to be presented to you. You have to find out, you as a small publishing house author, you have to find opportunities. Some of the advice I get from more successful authors or authors who are more well known than I am is keep writing, build up your backlog of books, keep getting out there, build up your newsletter, get reviews. If you've heard me say get reviews on my tips and tricks numerous times, that's because reviews are really important. Because of the way these algorithms work on all of these book sites and everything like that, the more reviews you have, the more the algorithms will find your book, the more it'll pump it out to other people, the more people who will find you and find your work. So yeah, that's really important. As authors, we often think that we're just going to sit back and write and sell books. Again, that's just not the reality. So especially in a small publishing house, you have it for them for as, for you have to be willing to put in as much work as possible. And if you're not willing to do that, or if you don't have the time to do that, that's fine. Just don't expect to, make tons of money unless, and this is the big caveat, you sell or you have the right story at the right time. We all have heard stories about the author of The Martian. He published that book as an indie author and it took off. Well, that's one book, one author. So keep that in mind. Yes, these success stories do happen, and that may be you. You might be the one in a million that this hits. And that's great, and that's fantastic, and that's exciting, and I hope that for you. I hope that for every author. So yeah, so just kind of keep that in mind that, you know, part of the publishing journey is you have to have the realization that you have to spend money and hopefully hopefully that will help you accomplish your dream of becoming a well-known author, career author. For me personally, I still work a full-time job Monday through Friday, and I write on the weekends or when I can. My day job pays for my writing. So yeah, it's kind of one of those weird things that you people don't always think about, and it's a little bit behind the mystery and behind the curtain, because it's not just, you don't just sit back and start writing because you signed that first contract. I mean, currently I've got all my books out. I've signed contracts with two different publishing houses. I have a short story with another publishing house that was part of an anthology. I've been part of a couple of anthologies as well, outside of my publishing. So you just keep at it because for me, I love it, and it's what I want to do. And it's what I hope that you love, and I hope that it's what you want to do. But you need to have realistic expectations. And I know that's kind of a bummer, and I know that's kind of a downer, but the reality is that it is what it is, right? I mean, I hate saying it like that, but you really have to put the work in. You know, if you're not willing to at least do some of the basics, which is to have a social media platform and to help market your books and stuff like that, then maybe look at other ways of doing it. There are tons of ways to do this. And maybe you just want to write, and it doesn't matter to you. You don't care if you sell any books or anything like that. You want to just sit back and write stories and self-publish them, get them on Amazon, and do it for you. And that's fantastic, and that's exciting, and that really is kind of keeping the craft at its purest, I guess. So yeah, so like I said, this is just a little bit about what it's like to be in what it's like to be an author in a small publishing house. Not only do you have to write the books, you have to market the books, you have to, do self-promotion, you have to find PR opportunities, you have to work with other authors to, maybe do an author collectives, be part of anthologies, you have to contact your local media, you have to wear multiple hats. It really is like you are your own small business where you do everything. So, keep that in mind when you're sitting there writing, and hopefully in the long run you'll be that one in a million where you'll hit the right book at the right time in the market, and you'll become the next Stephen King or Anne Rice or Kim Stanley Robinson or J.R.R. Martinson or whomever your author idol is, because that would be wonderful. That would be exciting. And hopefully, these tips and tricks that I'm sharing with you will get you there. I mean, that's really all that we can hope for. So, again, I will have a link to the blog post that this is based on. You can check it out, read it a little bit more. And as always, feel free to reach out to me. You can email me, find me on social media if you've got questions or if I can answer anything for you. All that information is, all this information I'm trying to get out there is to help all of us authors out there and build a strong, powerful writing community. Okay, guys, until next time, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.